my god. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Welcome to Gaix Day Five, and today will not be different from the other four previous days we've had, where we delve into different part of the industry, different career paths. And yesterday was about esports, and yeah, we had some amazing speakers understanding, and they gave us full insight on what the esports industry is like. And yes, that was really, really helpful. And today, yeah, we'll be delving into narrative design. And I have a speaker with me here today, Caitlin Conroy. Hmm. She'll be giving us she'll be giving us insights in the role and responsibility of a narrative designer. Uh, a quick one here. Okay, a quick bio on Catherine here. On Kathleen, yes, sorry about that. Kathleen Conroy is a lead game designer with 13 plus years in game development and credit on over 30 games. Wow, 30 games. That's amazing. Our specialties include narrative design, system design, and content design, with a focus on live services and licensed game development. She has worked with such well-known brands such as Star Wars, The Simpsons, one of my favorites, Paddington Bear, The Blacklist, CSI, the National Geographic, to build games that feel like fun and authentic experience for their fans. Our superpower is using a narrative lens to build holistic game design, content, system, creating immersive worlds that players will want to return to again and again. Wow. Can't wait for the speaker to come on stage and give us some insights in this field. Uh, yeah. Can I welcome Catherine to the stand right now? Yeah.
Hello.
Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me.
Before you get started, please, I would like you to just, in three words, just give us what is narrative design.
Sure. So, narrative design is basically the design discipline that focuses on the storytelling of the game and kind of the world building to explain what the world of the game is, who the characters
Oh,
are, who the player is.
okay, okay. Just wanted our audience to really know what we are delving into. So you can take the stand now.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share screen.
You're welcome.
Okay. Hopefully, everybody can see my screen. I think it's coming up right now. Okay, great. And hopefully, you can all hear me okay and let me know if there's any problems at all. Here we go. So really appreciate the introduction. I have another slide here just kind of laying out a bit more of my background as well. I don't think I need to go back through that because you just did a beautiful job introing me. But here are some of the games that I've worked on just for reference. The current project I'm on is called Star Wars Hunters. Okay, so first thing I wanted to talk about today is basically just going over design disciplines as a whole to kind of explain how narrative design fits into that. So when you get into game design, you can enter the industry and do what's called sort of being a generalist, which is you might work on a whole bunch of different types of design, and that really depends on the size of the company that you're going to be working at, right? If you're working at a really small company, you're likely going to be more of a generalist that you do all kinds of things and kind of get your hands into every aspect of game design. When you start to work at larger companies, you might really have more of a specialization because there's sort of such large scale projects that they need you to focus in on something more specific. So once you get to a company of that size, you might look to specialize into one of these paths. And the paths that I'm going to kind of just mention here in passing are narrative design, which we're talking about today, combat design, which focuses on how you fight in a game, how enemies take damage, and that kind of thing. Gameplay design, a little bit of a looser term here, but basically anything that takes place outside of kind of the meta when you're in the game and fighting against enemies and doing various things. Systems design focuses more on stuff like the meta game. So, what are the activities that I'm doing when I'm outside of sort of the core combat or gameplay loop? What other activities can I do in the game? So, all kinds of things with that. Level design really looks at what is the layout of the levels, how are they built, how do I traverse these spaces. UX design looks at, and sort of UI looks at, how am I interfacing with the different parts of the game as a player, and how do I understand the flow of getting from one part of the game to another. And then content design is kind of a loose term, but it can mean anything from building enemies in a game to building items, building out content plans of things that you're going to acquire in a game. So that's just to give you a high level overview of, there are lots of different specializations that you can go into as a designer. Narrative design focuses specifically on kind of the world building and the story of the game, and sort of telling players things like, who am I, why am I here, and what am I going to be doing during this game. All right. So yeah, again, going into this with narrative design, focusing on world building and story, I'm going to set something, that I like to just call the narrative frame, which is just kind of saying to the player, when I'm playing this video game, I should feel like I'm inside of a fully realized world, and the game is sort of taking place inside that world. So the narrative designer's job is really to build out that world, to kind of create the logic of it, and to really make you feel like the world and the story of the game are consistent, and there's nothing happening that is breaking my immersion or making me feel like something here feels wrong or incorrect and is sort of disagreeing with itself in the game. So, big questions that we look to answer as narrative designers when you're first getting into working on a project. The number one question for me is explaining who the player is, because right off the bat, that's going to set you inside the game world and give you a lot of stakes to understand what you're doing there. So, for example, if I'm playing a named character in a game like Mario, right? I know that I'm Mario. That's the answer to that question. I know that Mario is technically a plumber, but he does a lot of things in this world that involve fighting enemies, doing all these other things. So that immediately answers that question, positions me in the game, and gets me to understand who I am and what my goals are. So that's a really big one to answer as a narrative designer. And you will often find that if the answer to that question is not clear, you can lose players really easily, because they'll spend the first part of the game trying to figure out who they are. So the next big question is, what is this world? Where's the space I'm inhabiting? What am I doing here? What are my goals? Why do I have these goals? And then longer term, once you've sort of answered those main questions, you're going to start getting into story, right? Like after you've set the stage for the world, you're going to start having conversations around, okay, once I've started the game, once I'm loaded in and, I understand who I am and where I am, what happens next? What are the characters that I'm going to meet? What is the story that's going to be told? What are the events that I'm going to see occur that, culminate in some kind of larger story within the game? And then also a really important thing to think about is, how does the story relate to the game mechanics and the features? The reason for this is, you can really break immersion in a video game if you try to tell a story that does not fit your game mechanics or your features. And what I mean by that is, if I am making a shooter game, for example, and I just decide to tell a story that is about collecting cats, for example, instead of guns. That's immediately immersion breaking, because the story is fighting the mechanics and the features of the game, and it's trying to do something that is not in collaboration with the other design. So, a really important job as a narrative designer is, you might often have a story that you really want to tell, but you have to be very conscious of the story that is coming through in the game mechanics and the features, and support that, and be telling a story that feels like it's in complement to those mechanics and features. All right. One other thing I want to mention here is, there is a big difference between narrative designers and writers in video games. And you will often find, when you're kind of pursuing this sort of career path, that these lines can get blurred a little bit. So it's important for you to understand the difference, so you know how to kind of advocate for yourself. So, the big difference here is, oftentimes when you come onto a project, if you are only being asked to do things like work on the world building and sort of write copy for the game, like write dialogue, write cinematics, those kinds of things, you're going to fall more into the writer category. And that can be something that you do as an entire job. There are plenty of people in the industry who are writers. It is a full time career at certain companies. So, if you really most enjoy, doing that writing and focusing on those kinds of things, that is a good career to pursue. If you're interested in also getting your hands into some game design, you're going to kind of move a little bit more over into narrative designer as a discipline. And the reason for that is narrative designers work much more deeply beyond just writing the copy and the dialogue and the text for the game. They also do things like they help develop the systems that you use to tell story in a game. And they might also oftentimes get more in engine and be integrating things and be more in the tech than just a writer necessarily would be. A lot of people who identify as writers in the game industry will be a little bit more hands off in the software. They may not always implement things. They may mostly be writing scripts and stuff like that. So it's really just a question of your preference. And when you apply to a job, being really clear and advocating for yourself on what your interests are here and sort of what you want to cover with that. All right, so talking a little bit about narrative design day to day, this is a very long list, and you certainly will not do this in every day of your job. It's just to give a high level overview of some of the kinds of things that you might do as a narrative designer. So I'll read through this list and sort of talk about each one a little bit just to give you kind of a taste of that, but I'm happy to answer more questions about that as well. So, writing narrative design system specs, this falls more into the narrative designer category than just sort of the straight writer category. And what that means is writing a game design spec is really laying out for like the engineers and the artists and other people you're going to be working with how something is going to function in a game. So you're explaining here's what the system is, here are the rules for the system, here's how it appears in the game, and you're going to collaborate with those other disciplines to explain all of that so they can basically take that document, break it down, and figure out how to do the work of making that system a reality in your software. Narrative designers also might implement some of these narrative systems into software. It a little bit depends on how technical you are. I've had certain jobs where they've asked me to do more prototyping in software, or ones where I'm like very hands off and I'm not really getting into the software. So it just depends on the job and what your interests are. But it is definitely a thing you can pursue if you like being more hands on in the software. Another thing here, you might end up being asked to fix text bugs. So when you're working on a bigger project, oftentimes when stuff is being entered into the game, you'll have some kind of error that gets entered. It might be a typo or just, something's misspelled. This happens all the time, right? So you might be sent a bug and asked to fix that, and you'll get in the software, you'll make those fixes, and you'll go through whatever the process is of the studio of uploading that change so it actually gets into the game. But again, that'll be dependent on how in the software you want to be in your career. So getting a little bit more into the writing here, another big thing that narrative designers do is they write voiceover scripts. So these are all of the lines that you hear in game that the actors are speaking when you're playing characters for so for example, like a game like Overwatch, whenever you're playing the heroes in Overwatch and you hear them say a line while they're using an ability or something, that would be something you'd have in the voiceover script. And there's kinds of different kinds of voiceover writing. You might be writing like a longer cinematic where it's like the game will stop and I'll see a short video and I'll hear the dialogue for that. Or you might be writing something that we just call barks, which is those lines that you're hearing in a game like Overwatch when a hunter is using an ability. That would be a bark. It's just a very short, direct line that's indicating a piece of information to the player. So, as a narrative designer, you're going to go into that doc, you're going to figure out what all of the voiceover lines that need to occur in the game are, and you'll likely work with the sound designers to do that. And then you would go in and actually write those lines. And you might also do things like give instructions about how you want the actors to say those lines. Another really cool thing about that process is you might be invited to attend the voiceover sessions for actors. And usually, those are going to be hosted by some kind of sound audio group. It's pretty uncommon to have like voiceover direction in your own studio unless you're like a very large game development company. So oftentimes we will subcontract with sort of studios that do this full time of they bring in actors and they do these recordings, but basically you'll be invited to attend as a guest and you get to kind of sit there and listen to the actors read your script, and you will give feedback to them in real time. So, for example, if they're saying a line and you think that the delivery doesn't sound quite right or it's not conveying what you want to convey, you can go ahead and then speak to the actor and say, hey, can you try it this way? And oftentimes they'll do that and you'll be able to kind of work with them to get the script where you want it to be and sounding right. So other things you might do, writing character backstories. So this is a big one that oftentimes there's a lot of information that you're going to create for a game that may not initially appear in game, and you are using that information to help inform everyone working on the game of all of the pieces that they need to build. So they might need information about who is this character, where they come from, what's their backstory, and that's going to help with understanding, okay, like what kinds of art would I make for this character? Well, I know this information about their backstory, so maybe I'm going to make them costumes that say this about them as a character. And you might find that you get some of that backstory into game as you go, but there's going to be a lot of writing you do that is used for the development of the game and doesn't always directly appear in the game. And that's absolutely not wasted work. It's very useful for creating the kind of game that you want to make and really inspiring everyone else working with you to, have that narrative infuse all the other parts of the game. Writing cosmetic text. This is a thing that we do quite often, where whenever you have an item in the game, you're going to need a name for it and you're going to need some kind of a description. That's most games. You might occasionally get games where the item does not have a description, but that's kind of rarer. This is an interesting thing to do because you really are trying to think about what information you need to convey to the player. So, for example, do I need to tell people in the name of the item what type of rarity it has? Do I need to tell people how the item can be used? Do I need to indicate that it's related to a specific character? So, oftentimes, when we're writing this cosmetic text, you actually will spend some time figuring out some kind of a system for how you're going to name these things and what the kinds of naming will be, and then you write everything along those lines so players can understand your system and kind of get a shorthand for what you're trying to tell them in the text. And then it's also just a fun place to put additional narrative detail. For instance, in Star Wars Hunters, we often use cosmetic text to have quotes from our characters, which is just a fun way to get more like character voice into the game. So another thing that you might do is writing sort of ancillary text for game marketing. I get asked to do this a lot to just sort of help out our marketing partners on the game, of doing things like writing or reviewing kind of the website text that we're using to market the game, writing emails, writing things like push notifications if you're working on a mobile game is super important because it's a call to action to get the players to come back to the game. So you need that text to be very exciting to them. And then you might also get asked to do marketing trailers, which is actually really fun and gives you an opportunity to go back and do more stuff with kind of those voiceover scripts and writing more interesting moments with your characters. So you also might be asked to do something like break down high level plot beats. And if you're familiar with, sort of regular storytelling structure, video games also often use that structure, but it might be longer term. There might be, different ways they're kind of incorporating it, but it's basically taking that three-act structure of like a beginning, middle, and an end and saying, how do I break that down across either an entire game, or if you're doing a live service game, a season, because those will usually have their own contained stories. And then how am I telling that story across, let's say, for example, that season? Like, how does the story begin? What are my characters doing? What's the drama that's kind of the midway point to that season? And then how does it resolve? You'll also do a lot of things like pitching characters and plot lines. So going to your team and having ideas for different stories you want to do, different characters you want to do, and then really working closely with your engineers and with your artists and stuff to iterate on those ideas and make sure that the story that you're trying to tell is really coming through in that art, in the engineering, in the level design. You'll also write game dialogue and cinematics, and then again, just a lot of collaboration work because it's a very collaborative business, and you really want the story to feel like it's a solid part of the game and not kind of just like a surface layer sitting on top of it. All right, so a little bit of information here about how to enter the narrative design field. One very good piece of advice is just to write a lot, and I'm sure you've heard that before, and I'm sure you'll hear it again. But the best way that you can kind of improve your skills as a writer and narrative designer is just to do a lot of writing, and that can be personal writing. That can be helping other people with their projects, but just having things that you have done to demonstrate what you can do and being able to build that into a portfolio. And it's really important to note that unlike other game design fields, narrative design is a much more unclear path. Like when you decide you want to be a combat designer, for instance, there's a pretty clear path to that, which is you get into game design and you start, doing combat and being asked to do enemy combat. Um, Narrative design will often work with people who are kind of already in the field, already doing that writing. It's very competitive. There's a lot of people that want to do it. So the best thing that you can do in terms of entering the industry is to sort of just get your foot in the door somewhere. So, like for example, I started out in the industry as a QA tester many years ago, and I was just testing the build. And then when I was in jobs, I would tell people about how much I wanted to do narrative design. And anytime there was an opportunity, if I had those kinds of relationships, I would get those opportunities to do little bits of narrative design. And that allowed me to kind of get that work for my name. And then once you have those initial experiences, you can leverage that to getting more narrative design work. But the first thing that you really need to do is just get your foot in the door and build those relationships. All right. So, some very high level tips that I have for you as just a good starting point are basically creating a portfolio website. And I linked mine here as an example. It is by no means like the best example that you will see, but it contains kind of all the necessary and relevant information. And there are plenty of other narrative designer portfolio websites out there that you can go look at for ideas. If you just search folks that you find on LinkedIn, you'll often be able to find their websites. But some things that your site should include your resume, any credits that you have on games. If you don't have credits yet, don't worry about it. It is still worth having a portfolio website to be able to show your work. You want to link back to your LinkedIn. You also want to have examples of your work. It doesn't have to be published, it can be some of your own writing. And then also just a way to contact you. I would say just your email because you never know who's going to call you if you leave your phone number on the internet, right? So other thing, go to networking events, which you're already doing by being here. So that's great. Some other things that I have liked to do in my past have been to go to game jams, go to development mixers, and then anything that's hosted by the IGDA, the International Game Developers Association, is usually super useful to just meeting people who have similar interests to yours and figuring out what kind of work you can be doing. And then also just working on personal projects. Anything that you can make that you can put in your portfolio to demonstrate what you can do, that's going to help you in the application process. And that's going to show people like what you're capable of and your passion and your drive. Okay, so just really quick, I think this is my last slide. Types of writing to include in a portfolio. These are just some suggestions, but it's what I often find people looking for. You're going to want a cinematic script. So usually, if you use a screenplay format, which you can find guides online for how to write this way, but it's just the general screenplay format used for films. Write about 3 pages showing a scene with interesting dialogue of characters talking to each other and something happening in the scene. And they want to see that because it's the format that they use to write cutscenes for video games. So if you're applying to a job that is going to have a lot of cutscenes, like for example, you're going to work on a Tomb Raider game, there's tons of cutscenes in that. They want to see that you have the ability to write in that format that you're going to use for those cutscenes. Cosmetic text. So again, this is a thing we do a lot of times, and I've included one example here, but you can find tons of them. Writing names and descriptions of like 10 items and including that in your thing. And if you can keep the character count, so the number of individual characters that you're using in the line to under 150, that's just a good guideline for keeping those really short and tight. And especially if you're writing for like a mobile game, you usually have to keep those lines very short or else they will bleed over into the UI and cause lots of issues for engineering. So it's just a good writing exercise, and Excel is a useful tool for that. And then lastly, having a character bio, right? So creating an outline of a character, finding an image online that can be a famous actor or really anybody, and just using that as a visual reference to say the character could look like this as inspiration for the artist. And then just information about, who they are as a person, likes and dislikes, what about their past has influenced them, and so on. And I believe that is my last slide. So I will exit out of screen sharing and then I can answer any questions that anyone might have.
Oh, thank you really so much for those insights you gave us. That was very,
Absolutely.
very, very helpful. Me for one, I have one question. Just one quick question. So I'd like to know what's key elements that you put in place to make a compelling narrative in a video game.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say for me, it's figuring out a really interesting conflict that characters can have, and then making sure that the
Okay.
characters are very well defined. So, like, a lot of times I will find interesting stories to tell by saying, like, I'll give you Star Wars Hunters as an example. we made all these
Okay.
characters who are kind of rivals of each other. So they fight each other in the arena. And we've made specific characters that have sort of opposing enemies to each other. And so that creates interesting conflict right off the bat because I've defined these really strong characters and then I say, okay, I want to tell a story about them. What's sort of the inciting incident that's created this conflict? And then that will sort of tell a story almost by itself from there of why the characters are fighting and what they need to do to resolve it.
Mm, okay. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. Uh, one more question before I
Sure.
ask from the so uh what roles does character development plays in engaging players emotionally? You know.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, I think it sort of starts with what kind of character you're going to have in a game. Like, I think, again, going back to Mario, that's an interesting example because you don't know a lot about him. He's kind of a cipher that, like, anyone is supposed to be Mario. Versus, excuse me.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, no, I have a little bit of a cough, sorry. Versus a character that is a little bit more defined, like let's say like Geralt from The Witcher, right, is a really specific character. So the first thing you're trying to ask yourself is whether or not you want characters to be playing a really specific character or a character that is sort of like anyone can feel like they're this character. And then
Okay.
from there, I mean, the character and the amount of time you spend with them really understanding them, understanding what their goals are and how that relates to the game is crucial. If you don't understand the character and you don't understand the goals, the player will often sort of feel emotionally detached from the game.
Yes, 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 that's right. You're right. Okay, quickly, I see we have a lot of questions from our audience. I'll take a few. Well, before I do that, okay, let me see the first one. Okay, Raphael said narrative design sound cool. Yeah, it is cool. Really, really cool, bro. Okay, so first question. Uh, how did you venture into narrative design, being a Q and A? This is from Priyanshi.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. So I initially got an internship as a QA tester, and that was kind of my foot in the door. So I cannot speak. I didn't add this to the deck, but I can't speak highly enough of getting internships when you can, because it's excuse me, the closest that you can get to
Oh,
having sort of
sorry
real
about that.
job experience is getting those internships. So I did that, and then that was allowed me to kind of put something on my resume to say, okay, I've had experience doing these things. I kept kind of getting little bits of work from there and just telling people how much I wanted to do narrative design. And then eventually an opportunity opened up at a company that they were looking for a junior narrative designer role. And I just applied. I had the experience of what I'd already done. And then I had to do a writing test for that, which is very common. So I was lucky enough that I, managed to pass through that and managed to get the job. Those kinds of junior roles tend to be a little bit rarer, especially now in the industry. So like really the best way that I've seen people do it nowadays is to just get into a studio, build relationships with people, tell them how much you're interested in narrative. And oftentimes, there'll be a project you're on where they haven't hired a writer outright, and they'll need somebody to write some cosmetic text or write a character profile or something. And if they know that that's your interest, oftentimes they'll come to you and they'll say, "Hey, do you want to try this?" And if you can demonstrate that you can do it, you can kind of work yourself into that role and then have things to show that you've done with narrative design.
No, so it's all about putting in the effort and trying. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
very, very definitely.
I agree with that. So another question here. What are some okay, this is from Raphael. He said,
Mm.
what are some challenges you faced in narrative design for games?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. So I think one of the big challenges you often face is like as a writer and a narrative designer, you will think that the story and the narrative and the characters are the most important thing. Um, but oftentimes you will be working with people who are saying, no, like the game design is the most important, right? So it can be hard because you will often have to advocate for something and you may not always win. And so it's understanding that I'm going to push as hard as I can for what I believe in and for the type of design I want in this game, ultimately it's a collaborative process and I might be overruled, and how can I kinda if I don't win that fight, how can I take that information and then keep sort of lobbying to get those things that I want into the game?
Okay. Okay. I think that answers the questions then. One more question from Wolf. When it comes to narrative design, I believe it varies per game. What are the key skills needed to adapt? I mean, this is a very nice one.
Yeah,
What are
yeah,
the key?
sorry, go ahead?
Yeah. I was just saying, what are the key? He said, what are the key skills needed to adapt into this role in the industry?
Yes. Very strong writing skills. So spending a lot of time doing creative writing, for example, really helpful. Being creative in general and being able to come up with a lot of new ideas quickly because you're often going to have to sort of pitch ideas and then something in the game might change and you might need to shift course. And so being able to say, okay, I had this plan for a story, but something in the game design has changed and now I have to change the story and being able to make the story make sense. And then also just being fast, like being able to write stuff quickly because you'll oftentimes be asked to do so.
Yeah, being spontaneous. Yeah, yes. Okay. Okay. I agree with that. Another question from Xavier. During gameplay, from a player's perspective, outside of cutscenes and exposition, how can you retroactively keep the story active on screen without taking control from the player? Hmm. This sounds like a more technical question.
This is a very smart question,
Did
yeah,
you get
and
that?
yes, I did hear that. It's very difficult, I would say, the answer to this question. One thing that you can do for sure is do a lot of environmental storytelling, so work really closely with the level designers and the artists to be doing things in the game that still give me information about the story, but allow me freedom of movement as a player to move around the environment. So, for example, I might be playing a game like Gone Home is a great example of this. That's kind of an older game at this point, but you're inside of a house, and a lot of the storytelling comes from you moving around the house and looking at objects in the house and sort of putting together the story based off of what you're seeing. And that's a great way to keep the story first and foremost with the player and make them feel like they're engaging with sort of a fully realized world without taking away that control.
Okay. Okay. So I last question, but before you go, one more question would be, I mean, last word of advice for someone who is trying to get into the role. I mean, someone who's an aspiring narrative designer looking to break into the industry. What would be a few word of advice for them? Maybe
Sure.
just a few before you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, I think the best advice I can give you is it is the type of role where you're going to face a lot of rejection, and there will be instances where you apply for a job that you think you're the perfect fit for and you don't get it. The absolute best thing you can do is just keep at it. Just keep applying to things, just keep trying, don't give up. And I believe, and it has been my experience anyway, that you will eventually get the kind of work you want to do if you are just very, very persistent. But it does
Yes.
take a lot of effort and time to kind of get where you want to be.
Hmm. Thank you very much for those
Yeah.
insights. That was really impactful. And I believe everyone in the audience really enjoyed that. And yes, they could take one or two from here. And yeah, maybe, have a dream to become a narrative designer because it really sounds like a good job. Cool job. Yeah. Thank you for your time. Thank you for doing this with us. Really appreciate that. Uh, yes.
Thanks for the invitation, and yeah, good luck to everybody on their careers.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, bye.
Okay. Wow. That was really good. Okay, before we go into our next segment, which we have presentations from our PMs, from the Gaix Career Week. Yeah, we'll be looking forward to that. And we still have some showcase from the animation and video games and XR. So but before we get into all that, I have a few games here that we can just to do a little recap on things we've been we've been learning over the past few days. This is the fifth day, so I'm sure we have some couple of things that we've learned over time, and I'll just ask one or two questions so our audience can give me answers to that. Nothing really too serious. I think we all partook in our XR classes, XR session, and yes, let me try to get the questions now. Just one or two questions, and yeah, we're good. A minute. Oh, our PM are getting ready, but let's just do this little one before we get. Oh, good lord. Oh, okay, okay. Uh, so first, sorry, trying to come up with the questions that I'm trying to come up with a few questions. A minute. Okay, yes, sorry about that. So first, I'm asking just three questions, and I'll just like some comments, some answers in the comment section. So, first, I would like to know what XR stands for. Maybe someone just comment in the comment section. You just tell me what XR stands for. XR. What does it stands for? This has to do with extended reality and all. And yes, just a quick question. What does XR stands for? Okay, few options. Few options. Okay, first option here is extended reality, extreme reality, extra reality, external reality. Can someone just drop a question? Just answer to the question. Oh, no one in the comment can drop the answer to that. Oh, does that sound too hard? Okay, XR stands for extended reality. Yes, as we all learned last oh yes, yes, yes. Exactly. What does XR stands for? XR. XR. But I already said that, so maybe I should just go to the next one. But extended reality, yes, Raphael. Yeah, that was correct. That's correct. Okay. Okay, the next one. What device is primarily used for virtual reality? This is what device is stationed to be used for virtual reality. I'll give you some options here. I have one, A, smartwatch, B, VR headset, C, smartphone, D, desktop PC. So, what device is designated for XR? What device is primarily used for virtual reality? What device? That's my second question now. What device is used for virtual reality? Option B, that will be VR headset. Yes, Priyanshi, that's correct. Yes, okay. Since you all have been paying attention over the past few days, that we've really, really oh, Raphael said he dropped the answers already. Okay. The third question here. Before I bring in, yeah, Xavier, you're correct too. VR headset. Before I bring in our PMs to give us insight on their research presentation, first I'll do the last question now. The last question. This one might be a little bit technical, little bit technical. So, what photography? D, a hardware component. I read again. I repeat, what is mixed reality? A hybrid. Yes, mixed. What is mixed reality? A hybrid of AR and VR, a video game genre, a type of photography, a hardware component. Just any answer in the comment section before I move now. Before I get this over with. Anyone? Oh, no one. Okay. The answer is a hybrid of AR and VR. That's what mixed reality stands for. It's a hybrid of AR and VR. So, oh yes, I think the answers are coming in slow. Abisola got that correctly. AR and VR. Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Yes, Wolf, that's correct as well. Okay, yes. Maybe if we still have enough time, I can still drop in some questions in. But I would like to bring our PM up on stage so they can give us insight on their research presentation. And yes, so I think I'll be bringing in Okay, Roshi is ready. So I'll be bringing Roshi on stage to give us a presentation on how to make African game industry sustainable for its stakeholder. That's a really deep topic we need to touch on. And yes, they've done the research on that, and they're here to present what the research outcome is. And yes, we should all just watch as Mr. Rushima takes the floor. Yeah, welcome, Rushi.
Thank you, Mobaraja. My name is Shimshad Yedone. I'm in Kigali, Rwanda. I'm going to
You're
talk about how to make how to make the African video games industry sustainable for its stakeholders now. Okay.
welcome. Yeah, she can take the floor now.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, this is our research area is how to make like African video game industry sustainable for its stakeholders. Now, that our research. Then the introduction for video African video gaming. As you know that African gaming industry. This is our overview. African gaming industry, like Africa, is the only region in the world where the youth population is increasing. By the 25th African young population, that is like the age below like 25 years old, will increase. This is our research objective. Research objective is based on like evaluating like political landscape, analyzing economic condition, and study social trends. Now, on political landscape, we have seen like getting a sense of how stability and policy and regulation might affect video games industry in various African countries. And then in economic condition, accessing how economic factors such as growth, GDP, growth, personal disposable income, and investment trend would influence the production consumption of video games in Africa. For study sociology, traits discover that traits in culture, demography, and social society influence the popularity and engagement with video games among African youth. So now, accessing technology infrastructure, we have seen like review internet penetration, like smartphone adaptation of 3G, and the impact on gaming industry, the improvement and technology, internet network access. We have identified like legal and environmental factors. Like this is the last research objective, like research registration policies as well as governing principles on environments that bring uh, practice affecting the video games industry in Africa. That this is like research assumption that that's like six assumption we made. Like research assumption, like most African countries, political games have shaped the regulation landscape of video games industry, which have like significant influence to the potential of video games industry. The economical condition across Africa, including like income level, investment, availability, play crucial roles in determining the market size availability of video games. Africa rich cultural diversity can create unique opportunities and challenging in developing games resonant with local audience. The adaptation of 3G, increasing smartphone penetration, rising of internet connectivity can influence the growth of video games industry in Africa. The local laws and regulation alongside the adaptation of environment sustainability practical are important for the long-term success of video games industry in Africa. Most video game industry across Africa face challenges like low internet penetration, high data costs, and labor power issues around affordability and availability of gaming software and hardware. Like this is pest analysis. Pest analysis. This is like political, economical, and social, technological, events, environmental, and legal analysis. First, this is political analysis. Like political stabilities, government policy, regulation, simplify impacts the video game industry. For example, countries like with supporting policies such as tax incentives for startups can force growth, while those with restrictive laws or high tariff or electronic import can hide games distribution and development. Now, like various African government have started to recognize the tech startups potential, including games. Political stability is crucial for attracting foreigner investment in gaming industry, allowing easy access and mobility to other countries, access visas, safety to invest or travel into region. The legal environment varies across countries. For instance, Nigeria has complex regulation for electronic import, which can affect gaming hardware availability. Now, this is economic analysis. This is like introduction. Economic conditions directly affect availability and consumption of video games. The estimated market size of USI like 2.14 billion in 2024, expected to grow to USD like 3.72 billion by 2029. Indicate like robust economical potential, mobile penetration, which accelerates in Sub-Saharan Africa and lies in disposable income in regions like Nigeria, where middle classes is expanding, play a crucial role in this growth. Implementing pricing models or offering freemium vision can help cater to diverse economic segments. Running economic conditions across Africa countries impact the gaming industry differently. For instance, South Africa, with a relatively strong economy, sees high consumer spending on gaming compared to other countries with weak economic like Malawi. Several countries offer incentives for local game developers. For instance, Kenya provides tax breaks for tech startups, including game development funds. South Africa also have grant funding opportunity for digital creative through agencies like National Film and Video Foundation, what we call NVMF. Affordability of gaming device and internet access is a significant factor in countries like Nigeria and Kenya, where internet penetration is high but data costs are also high. Affordability remains a barrier economy to reduce data costs, including device affordability and growth. This is sociological analysis, introduction, culture acceptance of gaming, society norms, and young populations demography influence game popularity. Africa youth project to increase by 50 by 2025 is crucial for gaming market. And understanding local customs and social behavior is essential as demonstrated by popularity of social gaming and in-gaming purchase in Nigeria. Engaging content that resonates with local culture and diverse population platform can enhance user engagement. This is learning. African youth shows a stronger preference for mobile game due to widespread availability of smartphone. Popular genres including sport, action, strategies, games that resonate with local culture theme. Sport games, especially soccer, are extremely popular given to the content passion for sport. Games incorporated African folklore and storytelling also gaining traction. Social media plays a crucial role in popularity of games. Platforms like Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, and TikTok, Discord are for marketing and community building, engaging community through social media help increase gaming visibility and user engagement. Technology analysis, we have seen like mobile technology, internet access is a significant driver for the gaming industry. We've expected the rise of 5G subscription to 60 million by 2024 in Middle East Africa and increasing average data traffic per smartphone technology advancement and pivot. Professionals of gaming smartphones and increasing internet penetration reach around 40% in Africa. Providing robust foundation for industry growth ensure that gaming's capability with device and explore opportunity in cloud gaming capitalized on these technology trends. Uh, the rollout of 4G and 5G in countries like South Africa and Kenya is hence the gaming experience. High-speed internet crucial for online and multiplayer games that esports. The rise of cheaper gaming phones like itel, Technology, Infinix are leading mobile phones brands. Diverging games device affordable rate at cattle specifically to African games with low income. This potential of like AI and LVI, virtual reality, and cloud gaming internet infrastructure improves. This Lego analysis, comparing for local laws, content and age rates and data protection is crucial. Developers must navigate through the Lego landscape. This is introduction to environmental analysis. Uh, the sustainable practices such as minimizing electronic waste and using eco-friendly material can enhance the industrial reputation. With environmental regression and promoting sustainable gaming practice are essential. Initial like E-Africa Challenge Game for Game Change, Xbox, Green Coding, Sustainable Program, and more have been working to educate game devs on how to create games sustainable. This learning promoting sustainable practical in gaming development such as using energy efficient servers and eco-friendly packaging can benefit the video games industry. The importance of environment sustainable is crucial. This including developers, distributors, and players foster culture through the industry program like this is the link for research for our source. Then this is our research inserts. We have made research inserts. Then our research goes through in gaming industry in Africa. Then we send those questions to the game studios. Then this the insert and the questions they ask, the answer they answer. The majority, we have seen that the majority response from African studio comes from Nigeria, where in Nigeria is 61.5%, where with remaining response distributed across South Africa, where South Africa is 7.7, distributed across Ghana and Ivory Coast. Ghana is 7.7, Kenya is Ghana is Ivory Coast is 7.7. Where are challenges most studios faces? What are the most challenges studio face in video gaming marketing? Most studios struggle with obtaining funds from their projects, raising awareness and effectively marketing their games, access adequate equipment, achieving sufficient tracking to reach their target audience. How are currently tackling this challenge? Most studios are tackling the challenge by applying for grants and pitching their games where possible. Does your studios have marketing? Those questions. We have seen like most African studios do not have marketing budget. We have seen that does your studios secure fundings annually? Most studios do not secure fundings annually. Like how much funding? We have question. Ask the question: How much funding does your studio typically secure annually? We have seen that most studios that eventually secure funding secure less than 1,000 USD for funding their project. Well, how do you get funding for your studios? The majority of studios fund their project with their personal savings. This like what are the some challenges they face in getting funding of studios? Most studios lack proper knowledge and instrument document to ensure that funding for their project. When developing games, does your studio focus on Africa market? The back of studio focus mainly on global market due to light traction and profitability. Kindly, why you have to ask a question? Why kindly why they chose your focus on market? Most studios chose the global market because they pays more and has more consumers. Does your studio incorporate with African representation and storytelling? I've seen that more than half of studios incorporate African representation and storytelling when developing games, where we have seen sometimes like 38.5, no, like 7.7, like yes, we have seen like 63.8. Does your studio have any support system? Example, under studios, community, government, and support. Most studios don't have support system. What support system? This another question. What's the support system or structure would most benefit from studio growth and success? The back of like most studios would benefit from funding and government support. This is do you have a gaming community? You have seen that most studios having gaming community. What are the main challenges you face associated with managing active gaming community? Well, it seems like most studios encounter difficult in engaging and capture the interest of their community in their project. How does your studio stay updated with the latest trends and technology in the gaming industry? The most of studio utilize social media to stay updated with the latest trends and technology. Like this is our last presentation. Thank you, Obareja. If there is another question, we can ask. Obareja,
Thank you,
this.
Roshi, for the wonderful presentation you gave us right now. Lot of insights to take from the research, which will include problems the African industry faced in terms of gaming, in terms of development. Uh, I can see community is a very huge thing that needs to be developed on, and funding basically seems to be something that the developers lack because according to your research, I mean they get less than 1,000 USD. That's way too low, very low. But I mean going forward, we know a lot of changes can be done, a lot of changes can be done, and yes, also I think from your research I could also take out that the African game industry still need to really implement some local engagements with the community so as to really push it out there with stakeholders. Oh, really, thank you for your time, Mr. Rushi. I really appreciate this. That was a wonderful session. uh
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you so much,
For
Obareja.
You're welcome, you're welcome. So before we get into the next presentation, that's going to be done by another PM, which also tackles the same research in the same industry field. First, I think we should go back to our question because my audience seems to be very, very interactive with that. I still have more questions here, and I know I'm still going to get some wonderful answers from my audience. So before we dive into the next presentation, I think I should take about a couple of questions. Is everyone ready? Maybe just four, five questions. Are my audience ready? Just drop an emoji in the comment section if you're ready for my questions before I get on to the next presentations. Okay. So, okay, first I'll get into uh, another question, just like the previous ones I've asked earlier. Just simple questions. I'll give you options, then you give me the answer you think it's correct. So the next question will be, which of the following is a popular VR platform? I'm about to give up some options and I'm asking which of the following is a popular VR platform? A. Oculus Quest. B. Snapchat. C. Unity. D. TikTok. Can I come again? Okay, I say which of the following is a popular VR platform? Which of the following is a popular VR platform? A. Oculus Quest, sorry. B. Snapchat. C. Unity. D. TikTok. Just drop your answer in the comment section. Yes, just drop your answers in the comment section. I think I'm getting late feedback, so uh I'll be waiting for the answers in the comment section before I go to the next one. Is it possible we can get access to the slides? The study looks after rather interesting. Yes, yes, it is. You should be able to get access to the slides in the African Communicate community. I mean, that can be forwarded if you need it. I mean, you can just reach out, and yes, that will be provided for you. In the comment section, I'm still waiting for the answer. I said, which of the following is a popular VR platform? A. Oculus Quest. B. Snapchat. C. Unity. D. TikTok. Okay, okay. I think this one seems a little bit odd. Okay, well, the answer is Oculus Quest. Oculus Quest is a, yeah, that's a popular VR platform. Yeah, I know most of you must be familiar with that, but that must have not correlated with the question properly. Okay, I think I should take one more question and answer again while our speaker get ready. Okay, okay. So I would say the next one is, which company developed HoloLens? Which company developed HoloLens? Does that sound familiar to any of us here? Which company developed HoloLens? Maybe I should spell that out. HOLOLENS. HoloLens. Which company developed HoloLens? Options: A. Apple. B. Microsoft. C. Google. D. Samsung. A. Apple. B. Microsoft. C. Google. D. Samsung. If you know the answer, you can just drop it in the comment section. Uh, Little timing before I drop the answer. If you know the answer, just drop it in the comment section. Pick any of my option A, B, C, D. I'll repeat the options again. Oh, I'm getting the answers late. Sorry. Okay, B. Priyanshi said B. Okay. Yes, that's correct. B. Yes, that's correct. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. Okay. Sorry, I was getting the answers late in the feedback in the comment section. Okay, I'm getting a more updated one now, so maybe I'll just add a couple of questions to it so I can really be fair on this one. Okay, the next question will be, what is Niantic's most famous AR game? What is Niantic's most famous AR game? A. Minecraft. B. Pokemon Go. C. Among Us. D. Roblox. A. Minecraft. B. Pokemon Go. C. Among Us. D. Roblox. I mean, just pick any option before I reveal the answer. I mean, everyone is doing nice tonight, getting the answers to the questions. So I think this one should be pretty easy. Ooh, Wolf said Pokemon Go. Yes, that's correct. That is very correct. Oh, I mean, y'all seems to be on fire tonight. So maybe I should keep throwing one. I should throw in another one yet. Okay. Uh okay, this next question has to deal with application and use cases of, I'm really basing this Minecraft is Mojang. Yes, yes. Okay, so this is application and use cases of XR. I'm really diving into the XR industry because that's what we did yesterday, and I think that should be a little bit more fresh to everyone. So, okay, the next question will be, what is the most common use case of for VR in healthcare? What is the most common use case VR in the healthcare? A. Virtual surgeries. B. Online consultation. C. Medical billing. D. Health tracking. Yes, common use case of VR in the healthcare sector. common use case of VR in the health sector? A. Virtual surgeries. B. Online consultation. C. Medical billing. D. Health tracking. Okay, I think Raphael said A. Okay, that's correct. Yes, 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 that's correct. Virtual. Yes, virtual surgery. That's correct. Abisola got it correctly too. Also Wolf as well. Wow. Okay. That's pretty cool. On to the next one. On to the next one. I have a couple of questions, a lot of questions here. I mean, while our speaker gets ready, we can just dive in and just have some fun with these questions. And yeah, let's see how everyone just keep giving me some nice answers now. So the next one will be what company introduced the AR2 set effect house? What company introduced the AR2 set effect house? A. TikTok. B. Snapchat. C. Instagram. D. Facebook. What company introduced the AR2 set effect house? A. TikTok. B. Snapchat. C. Instagram. D. Facebook. Okay, this seems to be a little bit tricky, but I'll give you options. I'll give you a quick call to the answer. I'll take out two options. I'm leaving two options. I'm leaving A and B. So, yes, your answer is between A and B. I mean, that should be pretty easy. The question again, what company introduced the AR2 set effect house? Taking out two options, leaving two options, A and B, TikTok, Snapchat. Anyone? Anyone? Is it TikTok? Is it Snapchat? Is it TikTok? Is it Snapchat? Okay, the answer is TikTok. Okay, now our next speaker is ready. So I'll welcome Rita on stage. She's also presenting a research on how to make African video game industry sustainable for a speaker. Oh, welcome, Rita. How are you
Hi,
doing this evening?
Bobolaji. I am tired, honestly. But, you know, can you hear me well?
It's okay. Yeah, I can hear you very loud and clear.
Okay, okay. That's great. Because I was a bit nervous. I'm not charged this stuff.
Oh,
Okay.
it shouldn't. It shouldn't be.
Right?
The floor is yours. Yes, the floor is yours. Do you want to share your screen? Maybe you should just go ahead and do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I have. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
It's like magic.
Yes. uh,
This program. Okay, thank you very much.
yes. Yeah. Go ahead now. All right.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rita Odom, and I am part of the people that are presenting today. I am going to be presenting a similar topic to my colleague who presented a few minutes ago, which is how to make the African video games industry sustainable for its stakeholders. However, I will be focusing on esports and gaming and community development. I mean, as you can see on the screen, we I'm sure everybody is familiar with esports. These days, it's not a new thing because the African video game market is expanding. We are currently $1 billion industry. Can you imagine in Africa, with the number of gamers in sub-Saharan Africa nearly tripling from 2015 to 2021, the continent is poised to become 25% of the world's population by 2050. Africa is rapidly solidifying itself as the fastest growing market for mobile games. And this is honestly fueled by the fact that everybody now has accessibility to smartphones because using phones now is literally a common thing to have. Every single person has a phone. And then we are growing. We are literally growing because our preference for video games are over traditional consoles. And during our presentation, you'll find out the reason why this is happening. These are our research participants. Look at everybody that participated in our research. Fantastic. We went through a lot, but So before we move on, we need to tell you, I want to tell you our initial assumptions and hypotheses. Most African video game studios do not. Before we move on to our research, we need to start from somewhere. So our assumptions are on the screen. Most African made game studios don't have a lot of downloads because they have poor publicity and can't compare with prominent games. We assume that we have low amounts for funding, research, or gaming studios. We also assume that we have low access to infrastructure, we do not collaborate, and also we do not have proper or existing communities. We assumed that there is community, obviously, especially online. We are privy to some happening on X, but we do not have a lot, and then we have very bad maintenance for community. So we'll find out if all these are true as we move on during our research. But before we do that, we need to tell you our objectives. It's also in line with our hypothesis. We are analyzing the landscape, we're examining the current technological infrastructure and access. We are going to evaluate all stakeholders, we are going to encourage interrelationship, hopefully, amongst all aspects of the industry. And then we'll identify the kind of business models that gaming studios are using for towards esports and also community management. We Everyone needs to remember that we are focusing on e-gaming, esports, and community management. So our research is going to get into that, even though we are going to have a little bit of similar results to my colleagues on, is still going to gear towards the e-gaming industry. So these are our pattern analysis, and I'm going to explain um, each of these bodies and how they are affecting us right now before we move into our research. For example, political analysis is very obvious that we have diverse regulatory environments across African countries. Things that happen in Nigeria may not be the same things that happen in Tanzania, may not be the same things that happen in South Africa. We might not have the same situation in Uganda or Rwanda. They are very, very different. So this might be a hindrance to gaming companies. We also have inconsistent policies, taxations, and these things hinder international investors. There has been notable increase in tech hubs across Africa. We have at least 32 currently in operation, and as reported by African Tech Schools, while majority are privately owned, they are typically not focused on gaming. When we have most of these tech hubs are focused probably on animation, gaming, but not on e-gaming. Most times we have to reach out to these tech hubs, and pitch to them to get them to focus on e-gaming. Countries like Kenya, South Africa are investing in digital infrastructure. Yes, since the gaming industry is becoming more popular now, the government is taking action to invest in its infrastructure, making sure that there is internet, making sure there's internet, making sure that there is access to techno access to education in the technical aspects. They are also investing in studios. They are also investing in African studios. Economic analysis. We now know that Africa is the final frontier for the video game industry over the past few years. As I said when I started this presentation, we are grossing 350 billion worldwide, and Africa is 25% of that. That is huge, to the extent that I think I heard recently that Nigeria is now putting in some efforts. Nigeria is putting in some efforts to regulate the gaming industry because they have started to see potential in it. And some of us who were in Lagos know that recently, Kate Sports had e-gaming events, and our Africa Communicate was also part of it. So that will show you that there is serious improvement. Despite this potential, the African gaming industry struggles with funding due to limited historical data and market insights. It's something we need to. Mobile gaming significantly outpaces PC and console gaming in Nigeria. It accounts for 92% of the gaming industry. The market is projected to surpass 1 billion by 2024, and it's driven largely by mobile gaming, mainly because the console and gaming industry in Africa is quite expensive. It's easier to get a mobile phone and then start gaming rather than waiting till you buy maybe a PS4 or PS3. There has, despite all this, there has been a huge explosion in innovation concerning gameplay payments in Africa. Most e-payment services, example, OPay, they have made it easy for gamers in Nigeria to take advantage of um, paying for games. Like you go online and then now previously you could not gain access to some privileges that you can use to enjoy gameplay, but now you can do that because of these improvements. However, um, many willing customers are unable to transact leveraging payment methods that are accessible. Why? Because it doesn't happen everywhere. It just happens in some certain countries. However, it has made gameplay more interesting, more inviting. So more people have started to engage with it. So our social analysis, many Africans still view gaming as a hobby or pastime. Yes, they still see it as something you do with disposable income. It is not as competitive. They don't see it as a competitive and lucrative idea career. However, the rise of organized leagues and tournaments such as African Gaming League, competitive console and PC gaming is gaining traction. Like I mentioned previously, Kate put together a competitive gaming event recently. In Nigeria, leaders are driving the conversion. Nigerian leaders are driving the conversation that gaming is not gambling through advocacy, education, and community management. Yes, it's very, very important for us to realize that it's not something that gaming is not something that you you do. Gaming is not gambling. It's not something that you waste time on. Instead, it's something that you can have a career in. Pan-African collaboration is also on the rise with developers pooling resources and expertise to boost game development. Very true. You can see that with initiatives like African Communicate. Entrepreneurs and companies worldwide know the value of social media as a marketing tool. Yes, now that we have access to the internet, we have access to the cloud. Most of the gaming, uh, com- most of the gaming studios can now leverage social media to get whatever they need to market their games. Large development studios and independent developers are fighting to attract target audience, especially audiences from abroad, making the industry as competitive as ever. Technological analysis, increased adoption of smartphones, the advent of high bandwidth network, especially 5G. 5G is making the gaming experience wonderful. Nigerian developers are not, however, African developers are not as lucky as significant changes such as unstable power supply and costly internet access can be a hindrance. Console and PC gaming in Africa also faces barriers like high hardware costs and limited access to reliable electricity and internet. Platforms like Gamer and Cade Sports have supported this growth by enabling wider gaming participation and competition in Africa. Cloud gaming is a solution to this because with cloud gaming, you actually do not need to buy all the hardware, the Xbox, and so on. You can just log into your account and you can access competitive games without the extra cost, only internet or just disable internet and Wi-Fi, stable internet and lights. Legal analysis. Regulatory frameworks strive to strike a balance between fostering creativity, innovation in the gaming industry. They are also safeguarding the interests of consumers and the society at large. This is very important because um, gaming studios are protected and the consumers too are protected. License laws aren't strictly observed in most African countries, and then this gap leads to regulatory ambiguity. However, organizations like WIPO are in the works that can protect your are in the works as you can protect your IP. So before launching a game, you make sure that you incorporate an end user license agreement or terms of service. This is how you will tell the people participating in your games how you want your game to be used, what you will tolerate and what you cannot tolerate. And to agree to that by they have to agree to that before they can play your game. That protects you and also protects the consumer. Legal initiative promoting diversity and inclusion should be enforced. Agree. Yes. Programs supporting women in game and gaming development, as well as other underrepresented groups in gaming, is very, very important. Legal initiatives should promote diversity and inclusion in the gaming industry. There are different legal standards across African countries, making it challenging for developers to distribute their games regionally. Difference in culture, difference in taste, and difference in political regulations. Environmental analysis. Most games are played online and require a lot of data usage. This contributes to the internet pollution, which amounts for 3% of the global greenhouse. If we're talking about sustainability, we are also talking about the environmental, excuse me. If we're talking about sustainability, we are also talking about the environmental impacts that we are having through games. Online shops are the most popular means of acquiring games as consumers simply go to an online store and they can easily buy games that they can play instead of um, buying your 3, 4, 5 versions of an Xbox. African game producers can also benefit from the use of blockchain and cryptocurrency in the gaming industry. However, according to sciencedirect.com, you this contributes to e-waste. This can also be curbed by utilizing cleaner and renewable energy and is necessary and this is necessary. For example, Zumo uses open source industry data to forecast and calculate crypto electricity consumption. They also use renewable energy certificates to encourage people to be more cautious about their effects, how their internet pollution affects the environment. Ensure that blockchain and crypto activities are powered by renewable energy. An example of this is, I think it's Kenya. They are one of the top green consumers of, and they are very, very cautious about the amount of e-waste that they impact or the amount of e-waste that they, how do I say this? Kenya is a it's a very good example of a green state that is conscious about its internet pollution. Now I'll move on to our research findings. Now that we understand the political, social, economical, and environmental situation, we can now move on with our research findings. We We conducted some research with a relatively small response pool. It included founders, CEO, developers, and game directors because they are the people that have the information that we need. We received responses from Nigeria, Kenya, and Tanzania, with Nigeria being most of our um, most active participants. Yes, I was about to say link. Um, excuse me. Okay. These game developers or these game studios mainly focused on publishing games on the mobile, Android, and iOS. Most of them also focused on PC, while other platforms such as handheld devices, example your Nintendo consoles, were considered or are very less popular among developers. The reason why, because the mobile phone is the most accessible tool, so they are making games for the most accessible tool. Um, Despite making a lot of games, or yeah, they make a lot of games, but they do not get enough funding for these games. They mainly get funding to build these games through grants or crowdfunding. The founders are open to alternative funding options such as equity funding and incubators. They do not, they strongly oppose loans, including debt capital and traditional bank loans, due to the financial risk involved. They do prefer investors, grants, and they prefer crowdfunding. They are also open to support from tech hubs for equipment and space for rent. Um, they make a lot of games for mobile phones. Even though they do not have a lot of funding, they still go ahead and make their games. Um, they have most of the gaming studios that we talk to have crossed the 5,000 download achievement. They know that their games are being played. They know that it's a success. They know that their games are doing very well. Our data reveals that majority of institutions also struggle to secure more than $1,000 in funding annually. That means most of these games are funded by personal funds or maybe a group of people coming together. They put money together to make their games and then upload and ship. Ship is the right word, with at least 60% of respondents indicating this as a challenge. However, a smaller percentage of studios reported successfully obtaining funding exceeding $1,000, and this is usually from foreign investors. And some of them could surpass 5,000, but not a lot of them. Um, we all know that the gaming community is very popular in Nigeria, especially mobile gaming. So it's very critical that the studios um, have publicity. It's very critical that they are in your face, either through social media or through community. Um, they require that for success. Game developers often gain visibility through community development, events, expos, strategic social media marketing campaigns. One highly effective approach to boost promotion is leveraging partnership and collaboration with specialized agencies to expand their reach and audience and engagement. Yes, a lot of the developers found publicity as a very important part of their success. Why is it not moving? Okay, okay. Yes. So we also talked about community and community management in the African game um, development. We found out that they do have community. Most of them have their community on Discord, others WhatsApp, others could include Instagram, X. Most of them don't do Twitch. They don't stream on Twitch, and they don't have community on Reddit. As we know, Twitch is a very popular social media for e-gamers. So they are aware that this is something that they need to work on, but priority goes with shipping out games rather than community management. Um, Next. Now, developers are very familiar with esports events and competitions. They often participate, but they have not hosted one. As I said, priority goes into shipping out these games rather than focusing on hosting one. They gain popularity through marketing their games, but community management is a bit of a struggle. There isn't a lot of access to gaming centers and esports facilities. As we said in our analysis, we do have a growing number of centers that support this growth, but they are not all for esports or e-gaming. So that is a little bit of a struggle to for developers and um, that's a bit of a struggle for developers and game studios when promoting their games. However, studios are willing to host tournaments and they're willing to collaborate with esports teams. They have live streaming events and then offer and they're also willing to offer in-game content to participants. They are willing to collaborate with esports teams. They are willing to do live streaming on Twitch. They are willing to engage in the esports community, but they always end up prioritizing shipping the game first. So, going through our research, we have come up with this conclusions and recommended strategies. So, mobile platforms are very popular. That is a fact. According to our hypothesis at the beginning of the research, we have confirmed that the mobile and PC platforms are dominating the market. The market is growing in this sector. They There is no friction between the gaming studios and their consumers. However, however, when we talk about the e-gaming sector, that is a different language entirely. We can see that there isn't much collaboration between the e-gaming and the community with the gaming studios. So I think, excuse me, the industry can be sustained with the support from government bodies through funding and through tax breaks. Immediately, studios are able do not have to think of how they are going to get their next meal. They would focus on collaboration and they would focus on doing other things to grow, manage their communities, and also collaborate and also um, prioritize the e-gaming sector. The collaboration between tech hubs, esports teams, and other studios would enrich the sector if that bridge is built and there is um, collaboration between both sectors. After all, the studios are willing to do it. Studios can take advantage of accessible internet and communication devices to build and manage their communities. They should Studios would do better by investing in community management training or getting help from community management experts, and this will help them curb the roadblock. It will help grow and link the e-gaming industry with the African gaming industry. Education is a major driving force to eliminate the stigma holding back the esports sector because there's a lot of stigma with esports. Um, if more people know that there's a future for the sector and within the sector, they'll be open to investing to its growth. That's the reason why initiatives like ours, initiative like Hate Sports, initiative like um, gaming studios can put in efforts to educate their communities or manage their communities, educate their communities, and also market themselves this way so that um, that stigma can go away, for a lack of a better word. And that would really grow and that would really sustain the e-gaming sector. So thank you for listening to my thank you for listening to me blab about e-gaming and community. I will take questions now. I hope everyone understood what I said.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation, Rita. That was very insightful. That was very impactful.
I
Yes,
hope so.
and
I hope so.
yeah,
But
full of all
please,
smiles.
there's a future in e-gaming. So if your mom takes away your console, please tell her that you will be a e-gaming sports. You're going to be a huge successful professional in the e-gaming sector.
Well,
People are
you're
making
right.
money in this sector. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's another reason why I'm here.
you're right. That's a good one. And yes, I could take out from that community is a very important thing to drive for the growth of the industry. Yes,
Yes.
community is very important. Yeah, I'll let you go now while we'll move on to our next schedule on the program.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Rita.
Bye.
So before we come to an end, we still have one more segment which we have to showcase some amazing stuff from our animation team, the XR, down to the video game. But firstly, I would like to bring up the animation team to do the showcase for us. While we work on that, I'd like to take some other questions from the phone game the other time because I see that keeps my audience engaged. So while we wait for the animation team to just do their showcase. Oh, sorry about that. Just a showcase of the animation, not by the animation team. Just a showcase to show stuff we're working on. A little problem with the screen transition, yeah. Yes, we can come up with a showcase now. Wow, wow, wow. That's some amazing secret right there. Is that black James Bond all mixed together with some funky stuff? Yes, that's some amazing stuff right there. I'd like to see another sequel of that. Maybe see a rewatch some other time. Uh Due to internet issues, we won't be able to upload one for the games. But yes, we still have one to come up yet. The XR, yeah, the XR display, the XR showcase, which is coming up right next. Yes, just like the animation, you should experience that with us. Okay, hang in there while networks keep going up. I see see the audience are really enjoyed that as well, as much as I did too. Because yes, that was amazing to watch. I mean, that was some sort of Black James Bond mixed with some comical relief. Like to see that in the sequel. So I'll wait for our actual showcase let's get there. First, some let's go for the animation drop. A few minutes. This is loading up. I mean, we're about to wrap things up with this. So yes, sir. Quite substantial. Yet. That's some amazing XR stuff. Extended reality, like we did in our part in our question and answer. Yes, this is some extended reality stuff. Don't let me use any curse word here. This is really some amazing stuff to find the treasure. SR is one industry I think really need to dive deep into in this country and see some amazing stuff come up. So that brings us to the end of tonight's broadcast. It's been an amazing day, and yes, the five seems to be wrapping up well so nicely. And we have just one day remaining, which is tomorrow, the last day. We'll be delving into another topic in the industry, giving more insights and impactful window into every aspect of the industry. That's what Africa Communicate is here to do with Gaix Career Week and the Spark Fellowship. Thank you for joining me tonight on this broadcast. Thank you for doing this with me. Thanks to my audience who have been engaging back to back in the comment section, getting all the questions, all the answers to the questions. Really amazing, really amazing. And thanks to the speakers we had today and our research team, the PMs who did the presentation. Amazing work. Uh, I'll call it a night now. My name is Mobolaji, and yes, we call it good night to everyone. Join us here tomorrow.